804-447-0601, Grizz. And that's a good point, because I do think that it's important for you to know the kids in the neighborhood. My daughter, who's going to be 9 years old on this coming Sunday, isn't quite old enough to have any of the knuckleheads, hanging out with her. Her
Right.
friends are generally her age, and they're delights. But there are a couple, that I have to kind of look at, funny. But at the same time, while I embrace, hey, you get off my lawn, at the same time, I also want to have the kind of rapport when they see me, they say, hey, Marcus.
Oh, that'd be the
hey,
first
Mr.
one
J,
to ask me
or what have you. Yeah,
for money when the ice cream truck comes.
which I totally wouldn't have a problem, because that's
I'm
the
broke.
kind of
You ain't
neighborhood.
getting no ice cream money for
Well,
Grizz.
yeah, that's the kind of neighborhood, that we grew up in.
Right.
I know we got people that's listening to us, down in the ATL. K-Dub was listening and joined us. He grew up in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, and we got other people in ATL in Maryland and in Delaware, transports from Jersey City.
Yeah, the dollar
and,
tie and ices.
and we got Renee, who's just listening to us, and I'm sure plenty of people listening to us here in Richmond, Virginia, that grew up with you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Who can relate to old school neighborhoods. Now, it's a trip, because if we talk to our parents, it's even different
for them.
than it was for us, because
They get clothesline.
well, yeah, they got that ass beat.
Right.
Real talk, Carlton. I remember hearing stories about, our parents' generation where it was really like a village.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if your mother worked late, you was at Miss Sissy's house down the street having dinner,
Miss
and mama
Sissy.
came and got you from there. You're not kicking it with Miss Sissy these days.
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You see her, you walk the other side of the
fact
street.
that we're even having this discussion tells you that it's a different time. If we was on here 50 years ago, it wouldn't even be something worth discussing, because it would be understood that if you wilded out, Miss Sissy caught you, that she would handle her business with regards to you. I mean, we talking about teachers busting those knuckles with the rulers.
Right. And you know what? I had a friend who posted on my Facebook wall. She said, my mom, who was a teacher, beat that butt while she was in the classroom.
Yeah.
Your mom isn't Carlton Banks, Mrs. Mama Banks.
Yeah, she beat the hell. My mom was
No
a teacher.
doubt.
She's third grade. She got those kids. And it's not a matter of disrespecting the parent. It's not a matter of trying to beat the kid.
If you ain't
It's
doing
just
your job
controlling
as
the
a
kid.
parent, there are certain institutions in the world that will do the job for parenting for you, i.e. a teacher, a professor, a pastor, a jailer, a CO. You know what I'm saying? So
PO.
A PO, yeah. So, as parents, we have to be, that is the most important job. Once you give birth to another life on this earth, your job is to A, protect your child, and B, raise them to be the best adult or responsible adult with respect and love for his or her God that they can be. I lost my point because we could go on this topic all day, man.
We just got a hit on the Facebook page. JR in Colonial Heights, Virginia, just hit us, and basically the question that I put out was, is it okay to publicly discipline other folks' kids? And his response was, depends on the relationship. If it's people I'm acquainted with, sure, because they got to know, can't get away with nothing. Wouldn't advise it myself, though, because people are silly, which is essentially what we said.
Well, we're saying, like,
And
you got to be careful.
So JR is right on it, JR. Thank you for listening to us here on Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J. And he's on it. I mean, a lot of times you may see something that you may want to address, but you can't. And, I don't want to make too much of a leap, but, when we talking about addressing things that you don't like to see, like with me, one of the big pet peeves that I have is seeing kids with what I like to call the uniform,
Right.
the pants sagging,
Right.
and things of that sort. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're up to no good. I just don't want to see their ass. I mean, for me, it's really that simple. I don't want to see your boxers. I don't want to see, your underwear, And I used to be a lot more verbal
Right.
about, speaking to kids about that. Not quite as much now because, like JR said, folks is silly, and sometimes kids wild
And
out too.
That's the society that we come to grow up in. I mean, America has been a very violent society. We have probably out of all the most industrialized nations, we got the most serial killers probably by far. We got probably the most sexual assaults or something like that. I don't have the stats to back it up, but I got a strong feeling, being that we're a nation of 350 million and we got the biggest prison industrial complex. There's a reason why we do that. So there are people out here that are a little bit off their rocker, not a little bit, but a lot, and that's what makes parents say, "Hey, I don't want somebody I know trying to discipline my child." I'll never forget. I took my youngest sons when they were 7 and 8 and 6, and took them to a Cub Scout meeting to see if they were interested in Cub Scouts. That meeting, honestly, it so much, it didn't. I mean, it may have been wrong on my part to kind of stereotype and generalize what I thought was a pedophile, but the Cub master just didn't sit well with me. And as a parent, when you look at something, you're like, I ain't feeling this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to let you go out in the woods with my kids for a couple of days or anything like that. We can sit down and talk about everything we want to. And then my kids was like, yo, we're not feeling this neither. Right. All right, so that's, you try to find what your kids like as their extracurricular activities. And I'm not knocking the Boy Scouts. I'm just saying, personally, for me, that wasn't a good experience, as opposed to when I took them to football practice, and then I knew the people that were doing the coaching. I said, okay, this is a good environment for them to come up in their peers and learn the sport the right way. So, yeah, you have to be protective of your children naturally as a parent. You also want to be aware of your surroundings. You also want to be aware of who your kids are with, who they see, who they look up to, who they watch on television, and see who they emulate. Because my kids emulate me sometimes. They be like, oh, Dad, I want to wear some slacks and a tie. I'm like, you're going to school. You're going to get ran out of school with that, And he's like, okay, let me get ran out to school for it because I want to be like you. That's a big friggin' deal to a dad. You see your kid wanting to be like you. So I always say, look, when it comes to disciplining your kid, it starts in the home first. You don't give nobody else a reason to want to have to say something to your kid. You know what you're doing as far as you raising your kid the right way. And the parents that are out here that are not, or the absentee parents that are not doing what they need to be doing, don't get mad when somebody says something to your kid that is, calling you out of pocket, because literally it's a mirror on your shortcomings.
Exactly. And to continue the discussion, please give us a call at 804-447-0601. I'm proud of the fact that that's how you feel, Jay, honestly. I mean, we as parents should be able to give a certain flexibility to, quote unquote, our village to say, if you see my son acting up, if you see my daughter acting up, check them right then and there.
Let me know,
because I'm going to get them.
School do it.
Christian was acting up in school one time. You know what? Teacher, call me. Let me know right then and there, because I will come up to the school.
Yeah.
And granted, the teacher is that grandmotherly one. She wasn't really going to do anything. They had the little red light, yellow light, green light. Okay, that's fine.
How many red lights did he get?
He only had that one that time. But the thing is, when I showed up,
shaking,
it's going to be on. He didn't know I was going to come up to this school.
Right.
But it's something that you need to realize. Our boy, 7th grade, I'll never forget it.
And we're not going to say
we ain't going to say his name. But when his daddy showed up at that school, we knew he was about to get a beating.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that happened to me one time.
Oh, your pops came up to the school?
He came up to the school, but here's the trip part about it, though. Here's the trip part about it. And I'm going to take it in a circle to make the point. Carlton Banks, Jay Grizzy Green, Marcus J are all parents. And I think I'm confident in saying that we're all good parents who have very minimal discipline issues because of how we raise our children. Anybody that knows me knows that I jump on Mama J real quick, and I don't really have a whole lot of problems.
Yeah, you do.
And a lot of that has to do with the way Pops J raised me. Pops J raised
Pops J.
All right,
Pops J raised. Call in the show.
Yeah, really, we really need to get in the call, and I know he's listening. So dial us up, Pop 804-447-0601. But he raised us with a very stern but loving hand.
Yeah.
And he didn't take no mess. So we got that message early on, so that whenever we knew that we had crossed the line, we knew. Whenever you are learning early on in your childhood that for good behavior you get reward, and for bad behavior you get consequences.
Yes, sir.
So you're aware of it.
Yep.
So one day I was in school, and I happened to be wearing an earring. and it was forbidden in my home to be wearing an earring.
Right.
So instead of getting my ear pierced, I had a magnet.
Oh, Lord.
Joint.
I had the magnet joint
Okay.
in my ear, right? So I'm walking down the hall, you know, I'm cool. I'm like, yeah, I got my earring on. I'm thinking I'm fly. And I look up and I see Pops J walking down the hall for something completely unrelated.
Right.
Completely unrelated. But the sight of him, the yellow streak went up.
Oh.
Nobody had to
Tom
call
and
me
Jerry.
out for something like that because of how he had us raised in the home. So the point I'm trying to make is, piggybacking on what Grizzy said just a minute ago, if you take care of business at home, you don't have problems.
You gotta worry
outside
about
of the
what's
home.
going outside.
We're gonna leave it there. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're gonna jump into our final break, and when we come back, we got our rants and we got our closings. Ain't no half stepping, Marcus J. Be back
Yes,
in a
sir.
minute.